All right, so let's get the timer started. Okay. So let's continue developing the lips, and then what we'll do is we'll revise the whole drawing once again, throw in the ear, and then see where we're at. Okay. So we've established the light on the mouth, and then the sides of the mouth, the sides of the lower lips are going to be a little bit darker. So we'll just get a bit of that color that we mixed, a drop of that color that we mixed for the darker part of the lips, and just insert it here. All right, that's good. That's good as well. Now, see, the advantage of taking breaks and walking around and not sitting, trying to fix your painting is that when you get back, you can actually see your mistakes. So there are a few things I'm gonna be correcting. And as I mentioned before, drawing is just one of those things that you always correct, especially when you paint from life, where you don't have a preparatory drawing. You're kind of drawing and painting at the same time. So I'm just gonna, now that I have more information on my painting, I'm able to make better judgment, better decisions, because before we didn't really have any anchor points to depend on. But at this point, things are a bit more precise, so we're able to go around and make sure that everything we marked makes sense in comparison to what we have on our painting. So my favorite tool is always, you take your brush, you create these straight alignments, you compare to what you have marked here, and you make these corrections accordingly. So right now, what I just checked is how does the eye align with the edge of the lip, and this is very vague. It's not precise, and we're going from marks that are kind of very generalized to marks that are a bit more specific. So my edge of the lip, in comparison to the eyes, was a bit too much on the left. So I'm gonna make that adjustment. Even if it's a millimeter of an adjustment, it's always these tiny modifications that make the world of a difference. So here we're gonna make sure that we get that resemblance further down. So we're gonna make sure that this is aligned exactly the way it's aligned in life, and I'm just using a straight line to make sure that that is the case. And now it has become more of the accurate description. So while working around the mouth, guys, do not keep your lips cut out. Now remember, the lips is kind of the continuation of the skin in here. It just slowly transitions into a different hue and different value, but it's not razor sharp. Don't try to avoid that razor sharp color transition, even if it's a tiny like a brush stroke that creates a gradient from this to this. Use it. I have a very sharp line here. There is no reason for us to have a super sharp line around the lips. It does not look good. So let's get that transition. Now, once again, the reason why I'm saying it doesn't look good is because what we're trying to do is we're trying to describe a continuation of the same tone. It doesn't. So to give you the opposite example is, for instance, when I look at the nose in here, the nostril in here, there is this part of the skin that shows almost like the background of this. So this and there's a cutout line, and then there's this in the background, and it does make sense to put a sharper line here. Or even if you work around, here you have kind of end of the cheekbone here, and then there's a background in here. So that makes sense. Here you can put some sharp lines. But in here, we can put some sharp lines. But anywhere that you have a continuation of the same form, even if you have a shift of hue and value, you want to keep your lines a bit softer. Your transitions, rather, a bit softer. Okay, so another thing I'm going to double check. Just because we've done it before doesn't mean that our drawing didn't get lost in the process. So always, use your brush to make sure that your drawing is spot on. So now I'm going to be checking my alignment of the lips, so that makes sense. Once again, let's check our verticals. How do they align in comparison to the eyes? And if you spot any mistakes, don't neglect it. Just make a correction. Even if this painting, it's not going to turn out perfect, but always aim to get the best drawing you possibly can, because next time, because of the pain that you're going to go through by making these corrections, next time you're going to remember it and you will avoid these mistakes. So don't ignore the mistakes. Make sure to make these corrections. All right. So another thing about the lips, and this is more of a universal observation. So you're going to have even softer transition around the edges of the lips. The transition from here to here, the central part of the lips is a bit quicker, and then the transition on the edges of the lips is going to be a bit softer. So we'll insert a bit more steps in there, such as like right here. Okay, so now I'm going to revise the chin. And once again, so while I was walking around and looking at the paintings, one of the most common mistakes that I've been noticing is our transition from the lights and darks. So here, I just want to remind everybody to make sure that we're not jamming our light straight into the shadows. Let's make sure that we have that appropriate amount of values that connect our shadows with our lights, so that we don't push our lights way too close to the shadows, because otherwise the form will look a little bit too flat and less natural, less organic. So here I'm going to insert an additional value before we meet the terminator line right here. So see, I have all the steps before we get into the dark value. Speaking of dark values, I'm going to add another value here and just revise my my drawing of the chin like this. Okay. So I'm gonna add the shape of the ear, which I have not done at all. So when painting ears, one thing that's, especially from this angle, we want to make sure is that we don't, although there is a bit of a light on the ear, we want to make sure not to blast it lighter than this. Otherwise, it's going to create an effect as if the ear was coming out a bit too much. So the first thing I want to look at is just that general shape of the ear, its width and its height, especially since we're looking at the ear from a bit of a foreshortening. We want to make sure not to get it wider than it needs to be. Otherwise, it's just gonna make the ear bigger than what we have in life. So the second thing I'm gonna do is I'll split my my shadows and light. There isn't that much value happening in there, value variation. So there's literally just limited range of lights and shadows. And if you're wondering how dark should the shadows of the ear be, you could do exactly the same thing as we did before with comparing it to the other values. So here I'm going to insert this. I'll start this. But also, while working in that part of the painting, I'm going to introduce a new value, a darker value. So, because I want to stretch my tonal range even further. So, we could get a new brush. So I'm going to introduce even darker value by taking my transparent red oxide and mixing it with ultramarine blue, which will get me just really dark value. Now, I actually have transparent green oxide, which will get it even darker, but if you don't have transparent green oxide, the transparent red oxide with ultramarine blue will do. And we'll insert those darks in here. There you go. So we just stretched our values even further by applying this this additional deeper dark. And while doing that, I'm also going to use this value to indicate the background. However, I'll throw in some, I have cerulean blue, but you can add any kind of blue. You can add ultramarine blue, it will do the trick. So we have the value, but we can vary the hues. So for instance, the background is going to be a bit colder, and then the hair is going to be a bit warmer. So while keeping the same value, we're just varying the hue. And if I see some lighter area, what I'm doing is I'm just leaving my previous tone here, so my transparent red oxide that I've applied before. So there's a bit of the light on the hair that I see from my angle, and so I'm gonna just keep it untouched, and then the shapes in between, I'll cover them with the mix of red oxide and ultramarine blue and with a bit of transparent green oxide. All right, I have a question for you guys. When you look at the lightest part of the hair, would you say it's lighter, darker, or equal to not the highlight, but the light on the forehead? So when I'm looking at the highlight,
Darker?
the highlight is darker. That's right. Second question is, what value, in your opinion, would be the same as the highlight of the hair? And that's a really, really difficult question, actually. So what value on the face would match with the highlight of the hair, in your opinion?
Like the bottom one?
You know what? You're right. Very good. That's a very good answer. So it's the bottom lip. And if you were to describe with a very simple term, what color would that the highlight of the hair represent it in the simplest way? And I mean like literally simple term. Something like it's yellow or it's blue or
Yeah, and also more in blue, like light blue.
yes. So we know the value and we know the hue. And the only question that will remain is our saturation. Would you say it's extremely highly saturated blue or it's pretty muted blue?
Muted.
Perfect. So now we just triangulated our way of identifying the color. So it's basically gray blue. The good news for us is that we actually literally have this color on the palette. Well, I have it right here. If you don't have it, it's very easy to mix. You could take ultramarine blue, throw in any of the opposite, so any of the warmer colors, such as either the red oxide, but it doesn't really matter. Actually, why don't we mix it together?
So Alex, would you say that the white of the eye is pretty similar to the highlight of the hair?
The white of the eye is very similar to the highlight of it's a bit. Yeah, you're right. It is absolutely. So I don't know if you can see it, but if you don't have this color, you basically take titanium white, you take ultramarine blue, and then you throw in, it's actually a bit of alizarin crimson that they have in the mix, and that is pretty much this color. So it's a pretty straightforward. There you go. It's pretty straightforward of a mix. Now, if you feel that it's too blue, it's just throw in a bit of transparent red oxide, and it's going to neutralize it even more. What matters is that we identify the value and we identify more or less our kind of hue and saturation. So there we go. All right. So, okay, I'm gonna switch to the small brush. I'm gonna show you guys something really fun. So, small brush, what it does best is it gets us really sharp, precise lines where it's appropriate. So I'm going to show you guys how to paint the eyes without kind kind of making them look like a cartoon. So I'm gonna take my small brush right here, and I will literally use lines to exaggerate the contrast. If you can see from far, I'm gonna try to get the camera close so maybe you will see it on the TV. Okay, so the first point of the highest contrast is between the what do you call it? The eye itself and the lower eyelid. We have a dark shape, and then we have a light shape. And the thing is, because the eye is a focal point, so we do want our viewer to look at the eye. I'm going to insert. I'm going to do the opposite of soft transition. I'm going to sharpen the transition, and I'm literally going to take a darker line and insert in here. And what that will make is it's going to create that kind of a scratch, that kind of a razor sharp transition from this to this. I'm not going to do the kind of a democratic even line all over the place. And, you know, I'm just looking for an opportunity to kind of sharpen things. So I'll do the same thing here. We have the gray here, and the key is to have your lines really sharp and really kind of small. So this is plenty. Literally, it's a lot. It's kind of almost like a elongated dot. So I'm not doing the outline. Let's not confuse this with the outline of the whole eye shape. It's just that kind of a dot that sharpens the area. That's all that we want in here. We'll do the same thing on this side. So where the eye connects to the lower eyelid. Okay, so I hope you guys can see. So where the eye connects to the lower eyelid, I'm gonna insert the darker line in order to show that contrast. So we're doing the opposite of what we've been doing around the skin, where we're trying to get our transitions to be a bit smoother. Now here we want to do the opposite. We want to sharpen those transitions. And if you guys decide to put those bright highlights, you can, but it will only work if your dots are tiny. You can't make large dots. It's not going to work. If you're going to put large white dots, it's not going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'll take quite a bit of white, titanium white, and I'm literally going to just put a touch. Like the moment there's a contact of the paint and the surface, I will not even make. I won't even let my brush touch the surface. I'll literally get a bit of that paint, and that's it. It has to be, the only way it's going to work is by touching the paint, not the brush. If your brush touches the surface, you might get the area of the highlight that's too big, and it's just going to look off. So you need that sharp touch. So hope that makes sense. And then I'm going to revise. So I have 32 seconds left before the end of this post. So I'm going to just take advantage of holding the sharp small brush and doing the opposite of what we've been doing before. So I'm going to exaggerate my sharp edges where it's appropriate. So somewhere around here would be really interesting to just get some of those details out. Even around the eye here, the separation of the eyelids. And that's it for this segment of 25 minutes.